I feel very comfortable sitting there listening to you. First of all, I want to say hello from America. Secondly, I want to say how wonderful it feels to me, and I know to the rest of my family, for the wonderful, warm feeling that we have that has been generated by you folks. It is absolutely outstanding. I think before I say anything else, I think there's one person in this room that needs to be recognized, and that is Mrs. Janet Rush. Janet and I have corresponded for perhaps 2 years, better part of 2 years. And Janet has put untold time and energy into making our stay here a welcome stay, and she has overdone herself. And she and the family, the rest of her family, and again, all of you that I have talked to, and I have to say that I get the feeling every time that I talk to any one of you that I know you for a long time because of the warmth that you have extended to us. Yes, to go back a number of years, the United States at the time when Pearl Harbor was struck, the United States had no Air Force, no Army Air Force, because the B-17s that had been in, the few of them that had been granted to President Roosevelt were in Hawaii, or they were on their way to Hawaii, and they were destroyed, and so there was the bomber crew. We had 10 P-38s here in the UK, and they asked for those to fly back. They flew them to the West Coast to stave off an invasion. It's like throwing a pebble into an ocean. But with the onset of the war, and I have said this a number of times, the feeling that I have gotten is not necessarily the only feeling that has happened through the services, but through the home fronts. The home fronts did the job, and they made it possible for lads like myself to do whatever we were supposed to do, or to attempt to do what we were supposed to do. I give you just one illustration, and I mentioned this a little while ago. In one of the Fort Worth places where they were making this B-24, they had 34,000 people working day and night. And every 4 hours, one aircraft came off the assembly line. And we had none to start off with. This was the energy that was put forth. And I know that that same energy was put forth here by perhaps your families, your friends, your parents. As a boy of 16, getting out of high school, I wanted to fly. And I guess I perhaps, even at that time, I was not quite aware of the seriousness of a war. And so at 18, I had to wait till I was 18 to go into the service. And in doing so, by the time I was 19, I had a crew that we flew together with. And at the age of 20, we arrived on your shores. Albeit, I sat down at the wrong airport when we landed over here. We went over in Nuts Corner, and we landed because it was foggy. Fog was down to maybe 500 feet. And the tower said, when I asked him for taxi instructions, he said, I would give you instructions if you were on my base. So I said, okay, explain that. He said, take off and just go about 2 or 3 miles further. So that was my inauspicious start here in your country. You know, I have to say, from the time I was 16, 17, 18 years of age, I have a lot of thrilling experiences. I have had a lot of thrilling experiences. I have had none that compares with this week, and especially this day. Everybody has been so kind and so warm-hearted and so gracious toward my family and myself, for which I thank you. This is not my first trip back to Kirby Bedon. As you all know, I dropped in on you, if I can use that word, back in 1944, on August the 18th. That was not by intent, but by choice. And at that particular time, I say that the folks who came out to the aircraft and helped us out of that wounded aircraft without any regard for their safety, I say thank you. With an aircraft such as we were flying, nobody who was not on that aircraft knew what might have been on there, what might have exploded, what might have burned. But without any second thought whatsoever, we were rescued from that aircraft. 4 of the boys died, and immediately your congregation here at Kirby Bedon took it upon themselves and very graciously had a plaque constructed, and the plaque was mounted on your wall over here. And so on the 10th of October, I was asked to come down and take the flag off the front of that. And so that was my second time here. And I was, of course, deeply impressed by the graciousness of your congregation. These boys, you knew none of them. You didn't know them. And yet, your hearts went out to them, and you did what you wanted to do. I had pictures that were taken at that particular time, and I've had those in my possession ever since I left the continent here. And many is the time that I referred to them and looked at them, and they instilled many memories into my mind again. And so, at a later time, in '92, Dottie and I were here. We had taken a tour of the surrounding area, and then we left the tour group in London and came back up on the train, which I had traveled many times before. And it brought back many memories, even just going back and forth on that train ride down to Ipswich and so forth. And we came back, and someone was responsible for leaving the door open for me that afternoon. And we went into the church. We went into the church, and lo and behold, as I looked at the plaque, I noticed the plaque carrying 4 other boys' names, 4 boys from your congregation or from your area. And I was deeply impressed. And at that time, I had that feeling that our 2 nations truly are a nation as one. It doesn't matter. We all come from a common background. We just live at different places, and we use different words. Let that pass. But that part has been interesting too. But nonetheless, we sat there for a long time that afternoon, and I have on film a wonderful remembrance of that day. And so that was my 3rd time here to Kirby Bedon in one form or another. And so sometime later, I received the newspaper article, and I have that, I cherish that. I put that under plastic, and I have that hanging on my wall. Most of my memoirs are in a basement area, which I have fixed up and for my own comfort there. And so, many is the time that friends of mine who see those things, they will read those things, and they are of great interest. And I thank you for that. That was very nice. And so, sometime later, I get a telephone call inquiring whether this was the right person, and Elizabeth was responsible for that. And then later on, I get another phone call, and a friendship began to grow. And the strange part about it is, these are people that are corresponding who have no idea what the other person is like. And yet, after reading one letter after another, I had developed a picture in my mind. And the picture came to fruition on Friday afternoon, or Friday morning, when we came into the train station, and here was Jen. And since that time, it has been a great period within the long span of my life. But that short period of time in here has been so marvelous. And it has all been due to the fact that you have received all of us so graciously, for which I thank you. We'll have memoirs, unfortunately, and for some of you who might be somewhere close to my age, you will, I'm sure that you will find that there's times when names elude you a little bit, but faces, never. Faces will be there. Names may not be associated, but it has been a wonderful time.
You could have the paper.
There's a little story about this. When I came in, I said, I was asked whether I'd like to have a glass of wine, and I said, well, you know, if I drink a glass of wine before I say something, I'll stand up there like a bumbling idiot. Because I don't handle it well, but I don't. I do thank you. But I tell you, I am going to drink a toast to everyone here for the very warm, wonderful feeling that you have extended to us.
I got 6 of them. Do you need some? What's going on?
I didn't know we was on. Oh, yeah. I came
Yes, how do you recommend we set the picture of you? Seems that you enjoy it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I love you. Right on top.